Okay, today we're going to be talking about the Cold War and how it begins. Well, first of all, we need to define what a Cold War is. It is the conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union. There was no real fighting between the two powers, and they had very different philosophies on how to do things. They each were able to get atomic weapons. They were very, very strong countries. And so if they fought each other directly, they would pretty much end the world. So they had to fight through other countries. So basically, the two philosophies, democracy versus dictatorship here. And democracies are where people are free to choose their leaders and decide their own fate. Dictatorships, the government tells people what to do. And so the Soviet Union had dictatorships, and the Western countries had democracies like America. Just to give an example, the secret police of the Soviet system, let me change this, would eavesdrop on people. They would listen in on their conversations. They'd threaten them with jail. They'd send them to prison camps. This was not a fun life to lead under the communist system. And the communists tried to spread. They set up the Iron Curtain, which separated East from West. If we take a look at a map previously, let me find that map here for a second. Here we go. All right, so we could see the Eastern Bloc over here. These were all the Soviet-dominated countries behind the Iron Curtain, and all of these other countries not in the Eastern Bloc or the Soviet Union are free countries, democratic. They're on our side of the Iron Curtain. So that's what the Iron Curtain looks like on the map. They each have their own ideologies, which is a system of ideas, ideals, especially ideas about economics and politics. So the West believed in democracy, the Soviets believed in dictatorships, the West believed in capitalism, and the Soviets believed in communism. And so capitalism believes that the people should own and make decisions on their business, and communists believe that the government should own and make all decisions when it comes to business. So the United States comes up with a new policy called containment. And containment is what you call when you use military support, financial aid, diplomatic pressure to stop the spread of communism. They did not want communism to spread any further than it already had. And as you can see here, if you set up dominoes, one hits the other, and they all start falling down. It's pretty cool when you see somebody do it right. So one of the first steps that we do is set up NATO. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it's set up by the United States and includes most of Western Europe and Canada to protect themselves against any Soviet aggression. So if you attack France, then you attack everybody in the NATO organization. And this was for mutual protection. The Soviets countered this by setting up the Warsaw Pact, which are all these countries that are behind the Iron Curtain. And so all these countries pledged their loyalty to the Soviet Union. They don't explain it real well in the book here, but the Red Scare is brought about in the 50s. It was set up by, it was well known by Joseph McCarthy, who went after a lot of communists in our government, and he was persecuted really for his beliefs. Sometimes he was right, sometimes he was wrong. But the Red Scare was very real. People were accusing each other of being communists, sometimes justly, sometimes not justly. And when Americans are pointing fingers at each other, that's exactly what the Soviets wanted us to do, to try to tear our society apart. And as we'll see in the next lesson, people were living in fear. Because of things like the Cuban Missile Crisis, people would build their own bunkers underground near their home to survive a nuclear blast if it ever came. People were expecting it to happen. Kids were taught to have these air raid drills where they get underneath their desks and go into, schools were built to be bomb shelters, to protect people. And, if anybody was in the town, they would get to a school as fast as possible and stay at the school until the danger had passed. So people were very traumatized, I think, by all the things that were going on because of the Cold War.